Dawn rises slowly over Brienz, as if the lake were taking a breath before opening its eyes. The light is not yet light, just a blue veil diluted in the silence that covers the village. The air feels newly born, cold enough to turn breath into mist, gentle enough not to disturb the water, which rests in an almost sacred calm. The chalets remain still, dark wooden shadows aligned along the shore, while the mountains rise behind them like old guardians who never sleep. There is no haste here. Time moves in slow circles, following the rhythm of the lake, which changes color the way one changes moods, from deep blue to milky turquoise, from a motionless mirror to a blinding shimmer. A distant bell vibrates in the cold air. Then nothing. Only the discreet sound of tiny waves touching the pier, like fingers awakening an ancient memory. It is in this instant, between silence and the first glimmer of morning, that Brienz reveals its essence, a village that does not seek to enchant, only to exist. A beauty that does not impose itself, but simply offers itself to those who know how to look slowly. Brienz is born where the mountain descends until it touches the water, as if both stone and lake had agreed to share the same silence. Nestled in the Bernese Oberland, along the shores of one of Switzerland's clearest lakes, the village seems to float between steep slopes and a narrow valley where the wind walks slowly. With every step, it becomes clear that geography here is not scenery, it is destiny. It dictates the light, carves the paths, defines the rhythm of lives. Lake Brienz, deep and turquoise, shapes more than the shoreline. It shapes the soul of the community. Its color, at times milky, at times translucent, reflects not only the weather, but also the mood of the day, as though the village were seeing itself in it. The water is not merely presence, it is orientation, compass, liquid memory. From it come old tales of sailors, of sudden storms, of days so calm the world seemed suspended. Wood, in turn, comes from the mountains that cradle the village. It is the material that builds houses, crafts, and traditions. Stone above, water below, and in between, a people who have learned to listen to both elements as one listens to ancient counsel. In Brienz, wood is not just a material, it is a language. Walking through the village is like moving through a living gallery, where each chalet bears the marks of old hands, carvings that narrate seasons, symbols of protection, flowers sculpted as if they were blooming in the silence of the facade. The houses, darkened by the alpine sun, breathe slowly. They creak when the cold descends from the slopes. They crackle when the midday warmth approaches. Everything feels alive, as though the wood held within its fibers the stories of the trees that once looked down on the lake from high above. The school of wood carving, a local pride, keeps this ancestral knowledge beating. There, students and masters gather in workshops where the smell of freshly cut timber mingles with the rhythmic sound of chisels, hammers, and sanders. In the air, golden particles float like pollen. On the floor, shavings accumulate like small, solid waves. Meticulously carved doors, windows with ornate frames, and wide eaves that shield from snow reveal not only craftsmanship but care. In Brienz, building is an act of affection, a gesture of continuity. Each house, each garden bench, each sculpted railing carries the memory of those who shaped the place with patience and devotion.
In Brienz, nature is not a backdrop. It is a force that speaks, shapes, and accompanies. The lake, ever present, seems to breathe in the same rhythm as the village. At times, a still turquoise mirror. At others, a restless surface that captures every breath of wind descending from the mountains. Its color shifts with the sky, with the clouds, with the hour of the day, as if it were a living organism in constant transformation. The wind, slipping down the narrow valleys, brings news from the heights. It stirs the curtains of water, lifts small waves against the moored boats, announces the arrival of the fine mist that descends like a veil. There are days when the wind sings among the trees, and others when it glides almost imperceptibly, touching the face only as a silent greeting. Light, too, joins this dialogue. In the mornings, it arrives slowly over the mountain ridges, illuminating the rooftops first, then the gardens, until it finally rests upon the lake. In the afternoon, its glow stretches across the surface, creating golden paths that seem to invite one farther away. At dusk, everything withdraws. Birds soften their song, boats settle, and the lake takes on a deep blue that returns the village to a natural state of contemplation. In Brienz, daily life unfolds in small gestures, almost invisible to those who pass through only briefly. Mornings begin early for the artisans, who open their workshop doors as the scent of wood spreads through the narrow street. The sound of chisels echoes softly, like an ancient language only the village understands. There, young apprentices share space with masters of decades, and each carved piece is more than work, it is continuity. Along the lake's edge, some residents prepare small boats for short outings, whether for light fishing or simply to feel the lake up close before the day gains speed. The movement is calm, almost ritualistic. There are gardeners tending the steep slopes, where flowers and herbs grow in tiny terraces sheltered from the wind. There are elderly residents who walk slowly along the wooden boardwalks, waving to one another as if confirming that time still circulates there. When school lets out, children run toward the lake, watch fish, collect smooth stones, and compete to see who can throw them the farthest. The day moves forward with simplicity, without spectacle. In Brienz, living is not rushing. It is following the rhythm of the water, which teaches, every day, how to be present. Every village keeps secrets, but in Brienz, they seem dissolved in the water itself, revealing themselves only to those who walk slowly. There is a small grotto on the eastern end of the lake, visible only when the water level drops. Longtime residents say that on cold mornings, the mist enters there first, as if seeking shelter, leaving in the air a damp scent of moss and freshly awakened stone. There is also the story of the Brunig wind, a sudden gust that sweeps through the village on certain autumn days. Some claim it announces change. Others swear it carries memories of travelers who crossed the mountain pass centuries ago. When it arrives, doors tremble, curtains sway, and the lake gains small, restless wrinkles. Another secret rests at dusk. There is a spot on the pier where the falling light creates such a narrow golden band that locals call it the silent path. They say anyone who watches it feels time slow inside their chest. And finally, there is the quiet tradition of the blessing of the waters. Once a year, before the harshest winter sets in, some residents gather silently on the shore, placing petals and small wood shavings as a request for protection. It is not a ceremony, it is gratitude.
In Brienz, tradition is not something displayed, it is something lived. It weaves itself into daily life like resin that lingers in the wood even after it dries. Stories pass from voice to voice without urgency, told around small tables while hot tea releases a sweet steam that fogs the windows. The elders recall when the village felt even more isolated, and the rhythm of the waters dictated the days of fishing, transport, and even rest. Wood carving, Brienz's deep pride, is a resilient inheritance. Some families have passed down the craft for 3 or 4 generations, and each gesture is repeated with the reverence of someone conversing with the past. Many chalets carry inscriptions in the local dialect on their facades, words that speak of protection, hope, fertility, as if the wood were capable of absorbing and preserving these blessings. The festivals are simple, discreet, intimate. There are no crowds, only neighbors who recognize one another, sharing dark breads, mountain cheeses, and stories that make sense only there.
In Brienz, the seasons do not pass, they shape. Each one redraws the lake, the mountains, and even the way people move. In summer, the water turns liquid turquoise, almost translucent, reflecting light boats and long days that spill into the evening. The heat is never excessive, just enough to perfume the air with warmed wood and blooming gardens that edge the paths. But it is in winter that Brienz reveals its deepest soul. Snow descends from the slopes like a thick silence, covering chalets, stairways, boats, everything, with a white that erases boundaries. The lake, though it never fully freezes, takes on a dense, almost metallic surface where the wind leaves fleeting patterns, arabesques that last only minutes. The light becomes rarefied. Each ray feels like an act of generosity. The village adapts. Doors are sealed against the cold, stacked firewood forms small domestic ramparts, and the streets lose their movement. People speak more softly, as if respecting the landscape's slumber. Inside the houses, the crackle of the fire competes with the wind's hush outside. To live through winter in Brienz is to learn to be small before the mountain, and yet persist.
At day's end, Brienz gathers itself as someone who slowly closes a beloved book. Light slips down the mountains, weakens, turns pale gold before disappearing behind the ridges. The lake, which has accompanied every minute, now returns a calm, almost immaterial glow, as if wishing to keep for itself what it lived throughout the hours. Boats sway gently, windows light up one by one, and a warm silence, rare in a village of cold waters, settles between the houses. The last strip of light rests on the turquoise surface, thin as a brushstroke. It is a brief yet deep moment in which everything seems aligned. Mountain, water, wood, wind, people. A moment that asks for no explanation, only presence. And then, when the day finally dissolves, what remains is the feeling that Brienz is not a place visited, it is a place lived. A place that enters slowly, like morning, and stays long beyond the farewell. If this breath touched you, come along with us. There are many other villages, mountains, and stories waiting for you. Follow the channel, leave your like, and keep traveling with us always in the serene rhythm of nature.